Neil, after 30 years in the news, on TV, you have a very unique skill set that very few people have. So one of the things that I've loved about talking with you since you left the old chapters, since you closed the old chapters in life, is you were basically saying, like, look, man, what the news could and should be is what I'm interested in bringing to people.
Right.
What does that mean? What is the news turned into? And I know what it's turned into. It's turned into bad news only, right? But like, where's the entertaining? Is there an entertainment factor that's missing? Like, why did they gravitate to only bad stuff?
It's people don't slow down when there isn't a car accident. People slow down for the car accident. So it's a lot of rubbernecking and stuff like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a formula, and if it seems to move the needles, you're going to kind of go hard on that. So if you don't have a shooting in Nashville, let's pull a shooting from Knoxville. Let's pull a shooting from Memphis, where at least we can give 20 seconds of that kind of adrenaline jump stuff. We often lose sight that there are people involved in this, and there are real human lives that are affected by these different little events there. I think that's something that's missing right now, is the lack of understanding of how what we say impacts people not only involved in a story, but also watching the story. But, our job as journalists used to be to inform and educate, right? And it used to be, try to not be part of it, just explain what's going on. Mm-hmm. If there's more than one opinion, try to get those opinions. And now I feel like that the whole media industry has become so fragmented, Nick, that people are now interjecting opinions into stories, and people are now slanting things. Before it used to be unheard of to not have two voices on a story of at least different opinions. Mm-hmm. Now, if you watch, you'll see a lot of stories that are just hung on one person. Mm-hmm. Well, one person has one opinion, right? So you're not even getting two. And I feel like there's an ability to manipulate when you boiled it down like that people, I think, have become very standoffish about. Mm-hmm. And I think can you trust what you're watching anymore is always in the back of people's heads when they're watching a newscast. And I think rightfully so, right? Mm-hmm. Because I can immediately go online and another opinion pops up on the exact same matter. And I can go to two different national news sources. I can pull the same exact story, and they are 100% different. Mm. And what you strive for is to, I always say, make yourself uncomfortable every single day, because that means you're giving an opinion that isn't yours. Mm-hmm. And I think that we lack that now, because and I think it's because a lot has been placed on a journalist now to go out. When you do a story, you not only have to do that story, you probably have to pick up a couple other quick videos of other stories happening around town. You have to do a social media post. You have to do you have to go through a whole different circumstance versus when I first got into the business, and you'd be assigned in the morning a photographer. You and the photojournalist would go out and cover a single story. You'd have time to sit and think about it and bounce it back and forth between each other, and then write a story that you felt like was balanced. And I just don't think there's that time anymore.
Yeah, I totally get that.
I just, for me, I would, if I ever got back in the news realm again, I would just want to have different voices. Voices that make me uncomfortable. I used to say, I got in this business to make everyone upset.
Yeah.
I didn't get in this business to make one side happy and one side upset. I got in the business to make everyone upset. And I'd like to see that happen again. And I think there are seeds starting to sprout of just that. I feel like it. And I want to be part of that. And I think the next step for podcasting is live podcasting, right?
Facts.
Yeah.
I agree with that. 100%.
Do you really? Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's where I see it. I just see that, like, I love this format. And again, you don't edit. It pretty much just goes on the way we are talking right now. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, there's something about live, and it's where I thrived, is being on my toes and speaking as something was happening. That was where my bread and butter. And so this is the whole thing with podcasting. Now I'm kind of all over the place when I'm sitting in a studio with someone.
It's such a very intuitive thing that you just said, because here's why the live is the next destination for the podcaster. Okay.
Yeah. Tell me.
So in the beginning, the reason, like, we shoot 4 to 6 weeks in advance, most of our episodes, right? Unless it's a special promo or something like that. But typically, we shoot an episode, it's going to drop in 4 to 6 weeks. So the reason that we did that is because, like, basically I was making sure that we didn't miss a Tuesday.
Sure.
Right? We are what you do on Tuesdays.
You want to stack them up, right? Yeah.
Stack them up to make sure that it was just like how do they film The Price is Right or Jeopardy and those things. They'll film all these episodes in like 2 weeks, right? For the whole entire year. Yep. So I was like, all right, there's something there. But the reason that live is the next place is because this is how, let's just say, the real podcasters separate themselves from everybody that's up and coming, is because there's a dedicated, there's personnel, there's skills, and there's time that is required to do it live consistently. Right. Consistently is the reason why the consistency factor is why I don't do mine live right now, because it's not technically possible with the other responsibilities that we have. However, it's everything that we're working on with this show right here is to go in that direction or launch a second show that is live in another format. So like I totally agree with you, and that's why. And again, when you have the ability to go at it, it relieves a lot of pressure, right? It relieves a lot of pressure when you can say we can fix that. Right. But when it's live, you got to be on. You got to be on time. Yeah. And when I'm saying on time, I'm not saying you show up on time. Like your brain has to work on time. You know what I mean?
The first thing is consistency, and you got that, and you have it for the right reasons. I'm gonna bank some episodes so that way, if we go through a dry spell here and can't connect with our guests the proper way, I'm still going to be on every Tuesday.
Get sick, who knows?
And I would watch if you all of a sudden said, okay, every third week I'm going to do a live one because I got those 2 banked. So now we're going to start doing one. We're going to slip one in here and there because I don't think people understand, like, everything you say is interesting to me. It's why I'm not hearing the pounding outside. It's because I'm listening to what you're saying there. And I think that when you add in the live element and the fact that who knows what's coming out next. Yeah. I mean, I think that's exciting to me. And absolutely. I think that's the direction that you're going. And I think it's the direction that I'm going.
Well, and from an entertainment factor, it's literally like off the charts of an improvement. Right. When you can,
like I'd say, my girlfriend is staring at me through the door. Come on in here.
That's right. And if we were live, we could do that.
Live, you do
absolutely.
That, right? So,
and because if we do it today, it's like, well, then you got to get her mic'd up. And but if it's live and all that's happening in real time, it's just I don't know. It's like behind the curtain. Yeah. You know what I mean? So live is definitely where it's at. And the fact that you did 30 years of live TV makes you extremely poised to do something that, like, for me, when I start going live, let's just say, because I haven't done it before, maybe Nick won't be great at it in the beginning. Maybe there's going to be a learning curve there. Possibly. I'll find out.
Well, if I looked at a broadcast from 30 years ago, I would be horrified. I'd be like, how did they let that guy on TV? Like, he first of all, he looks like a punk. Okay, he's got a double-breasted suit on right there. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's tracking these storms and he's going the wrong direction. It's like, get him off. Get the hook. I was on CNN for 17 hours once during the April 16th tornadoes, and my mom was like, I could hear the change rattling in your pocket. There's it was crazy when you look back. So it's funny when you said that to me when I first met you a long time ago. When I shook your hand, I was like, we're doing something. Mm-hmm. I could you can just tell that, right? But I was like, yeah, but that's what someone's going to be saying to you down the road too, because you like when you get into a format early on and you're an early adapter of technology and you're an early adapter of formatting like that, you become the standard bearer, right? Yeah. You become people are watching the Hitstreak and saying, I'm going to set my studio up like Nick. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to interview people like Nick. That's where you are. You're in the space.
Yep. Well, and check this out. Like, literally from a branding standpoint, it'd be so easy because if you're watching with us, behind me is a graphic. It's been on every episode, the Hitstreak with Nick Hyder. Oh, it's cool. If you just take in all capital letters that looks like a neon sign with a square around it, and it's red, and it says live, and you just stamp it right on there, that's a second show.
That's a second show.
Right? And it's special. Now, and it may be, this is every Tuesday, and maybe the live stuff is random, and we promote it. Maybe it's like pop-up parties or pop-up events, or maybe pre-recorded episodes are on Tuesday, and every Friday we do a live.
But how great is it the fact that you can sit here and just spitball ideas like that and actually make them happen? That's the flexibility in this format that TV doesn't offer.
So, like, I'm not worried about, like, we have sponsors, we have partners, and they're here because they want that innovation. They want what's coming next. They're not tied to that old
Right.
The old, they want like bring the new out with the old, bring the new, you know, type thing.
Well, and they also want a host who has a relationship with their viewers that's different. They want their product associated with a host because of that host's association with the viewers, and that's part of the magic of this too.
The podcast host is not interchangeable. That's for dang sure.
No, and it's like, oh, I'm going to buy Nick because he's got 1 million views on his most recent podcast. But the fact is, I'm buying Nick because I like Nick.
Yeah,
I want Nick saying my product name out of his mouth. I want people to hear Nick talk about my company. That's what they're buying into, and that to me is pretty special as well, right? Because you can choose what products you endorse. You can choose what products you partner with.
Yep.
And that gives you a certain amount of say in the direction of your show and the quality of your show and the standards that you set. So I know that if I see an advertisement or a partner of yours pop up on your show, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to give that a second thought because there's a connection there with Nick, and I have a connection with Nick. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And like, so with the rest of the time that we kind of have, I want to really get into two specific things. I really want to get into, like, again, you dream just like everybody else, right? And now you've got the resources, the relationships, and the time, right, to actually chase those dreams and pursue those dreams. Right. I know that you've got an exquisite message to not just men, but definitely men at midlife. And that's kind of how I want to bring everything to a close, right? So, but first I really want to talk about, like, tell me about what you dream about, what you want to do. We've had tons of conversations I just had this thought while we were recording today, and I wrote it down just because one of the big things in podcasting right now is like the old shows from the 80s and the 90s, the actors come together and they basically just relive the episode. They talk about it. Yeah.
I love that.
You got 29 years of that.
I got 29 years of that. I would, my dream is to, first of all, pull back the curtain on what I did for 30 years. Let people kind of get a little bit more inside. My dream is to give voices to people that don't have that voice. We walk around this world and just about everybody has a story. They have a voice. They have a reason they developed into who they are. And I love just going around and talking to people and figuring that stuff out. And you find out the coolest things that people have been through. And that's my dream would be to develop a product that does just that. I will never get morning radio and morning TV out of my blood. There is an adrenaline factor there that will never go away. If I ended up doing something live in the mornings again, I can tell you my heart would be 100% behind it. I would never wake up at 1:30 again in the morning. I would do it a little bit later on, probably 6, maybe a little bit later. But that's in my blood. It's like the kid in the classroom who wants to get the rumor first, right? You want to be the one that's, telling someone else something that they don't know. There's an intoxication of that feeling. And I would love to find something that captures that, but does it in a format that I'm comfortable with. I wasn't comfortable in local TV anymore.
Yeah, man. Well, and again, that's done with sets. I think, when I look at a guy like you, I'm like, you don't need one show. You need like 3 or 4.
I would love it.
And there's something happening. There's a movement happening, and they call it affiliate marketing, right? So at the end of the day, there's affiliate marketing, and then there's NIL deals, and they're kind of one and the same. NILs for people that actually have a name, image, and likeness value, that they know what the value is. It's been assigned.
Yeah.
And then there's everybody else that's kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm in the figuring out group.
See, you may say that, but I would say it would be very easy to define what the value actually is. If we sat down, it would take literally like a couple hours to really figure that out. But like, I would love to. I don't know if
you're hired.
I don't know if the looking back. That's right. Boom.
We just did a business deal.
That's right. Ching, ching.
I love it.
I need the button. I need the sound effect of money. The cash register going off.
Well, right now it's an empty piggy bank that you'll hear, but we'll fix that.
We'll fix it. We're going to fill it up. You need, I definitely think there's all right, so literally around town in Nashville right now, there's billboards, like there's dozens of them of Purity with pictures, with their old posters of Ernest that were on billboards in the 80s and 90s.
Isn't that crazy?
Really the 80s.
Yeah.
And they brought them back. Well, guess what? What's the difference in Purity hiring Jim Varney or Ernest to rep their product,
right?
Versus like literally like we just we got a new deal with the Vibe board. Yep. It's the exact same thing.
And how smart is Purity for doing that? Because it's like all those kids that identified with those characters when they were little, well, they all have kids now.
That's right.
And the fact that you're actually turning back the clock like that and connecting with them on that level from their childhood, genius marketing.
I agree so much. And like when I look at that, there's a big movement going on. So especially like, Nashville's a huge market.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's local TV and there's national and worldwide TV, but the local influence is extremely valuable, especially in this town.
Yep.
So like there's a big opportunity for you because I mean, and nothing against the anchors out there, but like there was, when you look at the last 30 years across all the new stations, there's only like 5 or 6 names that you remember.
Right.
Okay. The rest of them kind of like, and some of them have been retired 2 decades.
Right.
Some of them, like, when did Bill Hall leave? You know what I mean? Like decades ago.
Right. Rest in peace, Bill, and Dan Miller. I mean, rest in peace as well. Like,
yeah.
These were voices that I heard 30 years ago when I first moved to town, and I was just like in awe. Yeah. Like, wow. And I think what's happened, Nick, is that like you can now take a Nashville newscast, pluck it up, and take it to any city in the U.S. and drop it down, and no one would know the difference, right?
Yeah.
And I think we live in such a unique and historic and significant area. We need to identify with that. We need to turn back and start looking in on that, and start capitalizing on that, and start having conversations about why.
Jerry House was recognized nationally, even though it was a local DJ. So like that's the thing is like even like now I used to love listening to, there was an LA radio station when I first got satellite radio years ago. I used to listen to that in the mornings because they had an awesome thing going on. So I lived in LA on my commute in the mornings, right? It was kind of cool. Well, Nashville's now that market.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with the Bobby Bones and the people that are kind of doing it, but like they weren't Nashville. They're transplants.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Like 30 years, you were what people did every day for 30 years. Right. That's literally how they started their day.
Right.
I did growing up in school and everything else. So there is, not only do you appeal here, but it's all the people that want a piece of Nashville in the morning. So like, dude, so the local thing is a national draw is what I'm trying to get at.
I think you're absolutely right. I think Nashville has an appeal that is farther than our borders.
Yep.
And yeah, God, you bring up Jerry House. I was talking to his son-in-law Shane Talent the other day, and Jerry redefined this town in many ways, right? Mm-hmm. And the people he would bring on, and the way he would be so salty to some people, and it was like he developed a relationship with the artists that made you feel like you knew the artist in a way that you would never ever get on a red carpet interview, on a staged interview.
Yep.
And it's that ability to do that, to make that magic with people by twisting it just a little bit. They're poking them in just a little area that they never were poked before, and that doesn't happen anymore. Everything's so canned. Everything's so, done by publicists and stuff like that, and you really never get to know these artists. And anyone that has a hit song in this town, there's a special story behind them. Right. And it's a story you're only going to hear through a format like this, where you can really kind of, go one way and different way and kind of poke at them at different angles there to get them to kind of to open up their bag of tricks and tell you what really happened for them to get here.
Oh yeah.
So it's amazing that way. But you know what? I was asked to do the Easter Seals Nashvillian of the Year Awards again. And what an honor that is to be invited back to do something that you thought you were only asked to do because you were a local news anchor, and that I think it goes to what you're saying right now. And it's like, you only have the value that you assign yourself, right? No one's going to do it for you. And most of us assign too low a value to ourselves personally.
Facts.
And if you do that, you're cheating only you.
You're never going to outperform your own self-image, right?
You said that earlier. That's so true.
Well, so there's like when I want to hear directly from you what you're going after. But when I see her today, I'm like, dude, you need a segment or a show that talks about like there's 29 years worth of stories, guests, like people, like I'm sure the people that are no longer with us, it's the historic country people in country music, the historic faces that came through here and those iconic people. there's
and you're part of that history too. I mean, you grew up in the business as well. So it's
did.
like, and when you see it disappearing in front of your very eyes, and you know that once it's gone, it's gone.
Well, everything goes and comes, right? So everything that was awesome about Nashville 20 to 30 years ago, well, guess what? It's awesome again, and now it's just spread because Nashville's a national treasure, right? Nashville's a national treasure. So,
you remember when Lower Broadway was all the artists of the day had places down there, and then all of a sudden it all went away, and now all of a sudden Lower Broadway's all the artists of the day.
Right. That's right.
Once again,
that's right.
It's incredible how you're right. We cycle in and out of these different phases,
no doubt. But again, like even. And I don't want to give away the playbook here, but I even saw a thing with, I hadn't heard, I thought the Nashville Banner died decades ago, and now is it Demetrius? It's a podcast now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It just comes back. It's just a different form. And congratulations to her for getting that up and going again. I remember when the Nashville Banner disappeared, I was upset because it was like an important media voice in the afternoon that vanished, right? And then all of a sudden you have fewer choices to get your news, and then all of a sudden that gets cut down. I picked up a paper the other day, and it was just a few pages there. And I realized, wow, it has been years since I actually picked up a newspaper.
That's right.
And looked at it. Everything's online, right? So, and everything's custom tailored to what we were looking at earlier.
That's right.
And you're only seeing what they want you to see.
That's right.